Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome, everybody. I am so delighted you could join me today. I have a wonderful book that we're going to be talking about. It has a fascinating, the titles are what usually get me, and then I realize that it's a wonderful book. But this title got me. It's Hitching a Ride, a guide to earthbound spirits and how they affect you. Something all of us have wondered, and it's really an amazing book. And the author is Ellie Pechet. And she's an amazing lady. This book is a story of her work. It will help people understand the spiritual realms that surround our tiny patch of reality and the unseen inhabitants of those realms who interact with us. It contains real stories of how Ellie communicates with earthbound spirits and guides them to the light, resulting in a healing for both the client and the spirit. Ellie has one of the most impressive almost vitas I've seen in a long time in the spiritual realm. She's a metaphysician, a medium, a shaman, and an author with over 33 years experience in counseling and energy and the energy field. She has an amazing capacity for touching into the lives of people. She is an amazing healer in a very unique way, one that we haven't really seen in a very, very long time. And she touches into so many different modalities. It's amazing. She works with addictions to grief and depression, PTSD, anxiety, physical and or emotional abuse, traumas, insomnia, vaccine and steroid toxicity, Lyme disease, HPV, chronic pain, fibromyalgia. It goes on and on and on. And she clears issues in not only this life, but past lives as well. So an important aspect of her success and efficacy with her clients, is her ability to clear the issues they present from this life, as well as the pattern of each issue from past lifetimes. So she's multidimensional, or a timeless healer, which is a really exciting aspect of what she does. So welcome to the show, Ellie. I'm so glad you're with us today.
It's nice to be here. Nice to meet with you, Barbara. Thank you.
It definitely, one of the unique, wonderful things about doing a podcast is I get to talk to people who are so talented and so unique. You've got so many different tools in your tool belt, so to speak. How did you decide on what direction to take all your gifts? I mean, you could have gone many ways. What drew you into the healing field?
Yeah, Barbara, it wasn't, it's not like I sat down one day and said, what am I going to do this lifetime? It was really a progression, and I feel like I was just guided on a very high level to be of service once again this lifetime.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I just followed my guidance. There was nothing that I thought out. It was all very, very natural that I was here to heal as many people as possible. Once again, this lifetime, this is definitely not my first rodeo when it comes to healing and working with people.
I would say anybody with your kind of credentials, it's definitely not your first rodeo.
And I don't believe in rodeos, by the way. I just have
Oh,
to say,
okay.
I think they're very cruel. And I'm a
They are.
huge
They are.
animal lover, so yeah, I'll think of a better expression next time. But you get the
Mhm.
point.
Well, it's not your first time around the block for sure.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I think the tools that you use, of course, mediumship and shamanism, and all of the other tools that the different clairs, all of the different clairs you pull into clairaudience and clairsentient and everything. Um, it's unique for somebody to have so many different tools to use in order to facilitate other people's healings. So it really is a very exciting exciting way that you go about a healing process. So how does it work? How do you, if a client comes and sits down in front of you and says, I'm having trouble with X, Y, and Z, how do you determine how to go about a healing process and how to determine whether or not they have an earthbound spirit with them?
Oh, yeah. Well, there are two. Those are two separate issues.
Mm-hmm.
One is uh, sometimes people will come to me specifically for issues with one or more negative entities. And they might realize that that's what's going on with them, or they might not. Either way, that needs to be handled before moving on to clearing any emotional issues. Otherwise, the entities will sabotage the work that I do. And it's really important to me, as much as it is for the client, that I get the results that they need for them. So I might, it depends on what they describe as far as symptoms. Uh, that will help me determine if there's likely one or more entities, and then I can check and verify. And if there is, then I deal with them. I take care of them. And if there isn't, then we can move on to whatever the top emotional issue is. And that's really my greatest passion. Yes, I can remove entities, but it's not my favorite thing to do. It's a necessary thing sometimes, but my favorite thing to do is to release people from the bondage of emotional pain, whether it's grief or trauma. And it could be childhood trauma from 40, 50, 60 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get it. I'll free them from it. And they can't believe it.
Well, yeah, I think that I want to go back to the spirits for a minute, though,
Sure. Yeah.
because most people, when you say there's an entity attached to you, everybody thinks, horns and forked tails and stuff like that. But there are lots of different kinds of earthbound spirits. Some are very sweet, some are very gentle, some are very. I mean, I know of people that are very comfortable with a spirit that is not attached to them or attached to the home, and they don't want to get rid of it. So when you have, usually an earthbound spirit is one that has not gone into the light, that has decided for whatever reason to stay on the earth plane. And I think that it's important for people to know that having a spirit attached to you or connected to you isn't the devil incarnate. Sometimes it's someone that does prevent you from moving forward. And so your ability to attach to them and connect to them and help them go into the light is wonderful.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, there's two. You're talking about two different things, Barbara. So just for clarity for the listeners, so pitchforks and all that evil stuff that you see depicted in the religious books, those are demons. Those are real.
Yeah.
Those really happen, and they're on the increase. And I deal with those one way. Very destructive, very, very destructive, and will lead people to commit suicide. I mean, the greater the drama, the better for them, as far as they're concerned. But when you talk about earthbound spirits, um, that's different. Demons have not been human. Earthbound spirits were human. They left their body when they died, right? The process we call death. And they either got stuck on the earth plane because they missed their window to leave. Maybe they were afraid. Maybe they grew up Catholic or some other religion that, taught punishment and damnation and all of that. And so they kind of dug their heels in and decided to stay here where they knew that it, where they were familiar with the earth plane rather than move on. But earthbound spirits are just people who have left their bodies and are wandering around, and will eventually attach to a person. Perhaps they will have a resonance, with a certain person. They remind them of their favorite aunt or, a sister that they had. It could be something positive. It could be someone that smokes, in the current life, and they were a heavy smoker, so now they get to smoke again and experience different types of physical sensations that they were used to feeling. So in some ways, it's like they decide to make the best of it if they do get stuck here, and that's one of the main reasons why they attach to people. Does that help?
It does. And, you've talked about past lives as well, which is something I'm terribly fascinated, with myself. So that how can a past life experience bleed into this life?
How can a past life experience well, I mean, we are the sum total of all of our past lives, right up to our current life, right? So some will have more of a, a, a dominant influence on us in this life, and it might be for us to learn certain lessons that we need to learn and that maybe we haven't learned yet.
So in other words, you will help that person to track down that lesson and embrace it and understand it and work with it in order to release the past life connection.
Yeah, I mean, if that's an issue, yes, healing past lifetimes is a huge part of my success in clearing significant issues for my clients. So the way that a typical session works is I clear the issue in this life. Say it's grief because a mother's son has stopped talking to her, out of the blue, and she goes into a state of grief. And in fact, I healed this for someone the other day. So the first part of the session, I'll heal the issue in this life, the grief about the actual son stopping to communicate with her in this life. And then I check in with her, and the number, I use a pain scale, the number has already gone down, usually around 50%, and by the first 20 minutes or so. Yeah, it's really fast. And they feel a lot better. And then I go back in again energetically, and I'll clear the pattern from any past lifetimes. I don't have time to look at each one. There just isn't time to do that. But what's most important is to clear the pattern so that it's complete. And then by the end of that part of the session, they feel really good. And the issue is usually down, say from an 8, 9, or 10, probably down to like a 1, typically a 2 or a 0. And it'll keep going down until it's a 0, because the healing will continue to work over the next 2 to 4 days. It's a recalibration that takes place every session, a recalibration of the entire system. So it's it's pretty simple for me to do it, but yet it's very advanced, if that makes sense.
Well, it does. And, you have your own technique that you use, that you utilize,
Yes.
the Pechet. Is that correct? Pechet?
Yeah. Yes. Thanks for checking.
I'm quite famous for mispronouncing people's names.
Oh, it's fine.
But you have your own technique that you utilize, that you go through with these people. I know that there's so many different areas that you do tap into and touch into. Grieving is certainly something that I have seen a lot of, as far as clientele when they come and, I'm depressed and I can't get over it, or I can't let go. How do you work with them? Do you, is it on a consciousness level? Is it on an emotional level? Obviously it's spiritual, but do you sometimes look for the cause for holding on to the pain and release that? Or do you go directly to the pain and release that? How do you do that?
Well, actually, grief is one of my very favorite things to heal for people because, a lot of folks tend to get really stuck in a cycle of grief, and it can go on not just for weeks or months, but years. And while it's going on, they're shut down and they're stuck. The reason it's one of my favorite things to heal is because I can do it in 1 or 2 sessions, and they're at peace.
Wow.
So,
I know that
yeah.
Long ago I heard somebody say, well, a woman died a couple of years after her husband died, and the comment was she grieved herself to death. And
Yeah.
I would have thought that was not possible until I just saw it with a friend of mine, and her husband died, and 4 years later she's on the brink of death herself.
Mm.
And there's no reason for it. I don't want to diminish his worth as a person, but 4 years is a long time, and killing yourself over somebody else is really not a good idea.
Well, why don't you have her call me? I'll take care of it.
I will,
That's a broken heart, and a broken heart can lead to death. And so let's help your friend.
I will certainly put her in touch with you. I feel that with grief, especially, it's something you can get caught in the cycle of, and it's really hard to pull yourself out of it.
People
So,
can't pull themselves out of it. They just
and
can't.
how is it that you can pull them out of it?
Because what I have a really unique ability that I came in with to actually dissolve things. I don't send them here, send them there. I mean, it's just an uncanny ability to literally dissolve a person's grief. I mean, I've got numerous examples. I could share maybe 1 or 2, if it's helpful.
Yeah, that might be very helpful. Let's look into that.
Yeah. So let's see. I love to mention my client, Paige, who heard me speak at the Afterlife conference some years ago in Arizona, and she had lost her son 7 years before and had completely shut down. She'd gone to support groups, would talk about it, but nothing changed. And that's the problem with the support groups, is that people go and they grieve together, and they it's like it goes in a circle where they keep talking about the pain and the grief and the upset, and then they leave and nothing has changed. And so she met me there, and then she came to a workshop that I gave, and felt the energy of the healing work that I do, and signed up for, I think it was 4 sessions initially, and then she signed up for more because she had other issues that she wanted to clear. But in her very first session, and she talks about this in a video testimonial on my website, the phoenixrisinghealing.com, and she says how in her first session I brought her to peace about losing her son after 7 years of not being able to get there.
That's amazing. I read your book, and some of the testimonies are so profound. It's amazing.
Thank you.
There was the one case of the lady who was going to go in for another round of shock therapy,
Mm-hmm.
electroshock therapy, and you were able to help her resolve the issue and avoid having to have shock therapy again.
Yes.
I mean, that was mind-blowing.
Well, and shock therapy is really barbaric.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're messing with your brain. Not a good idea. So best to avoid that, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
my theory is enough brain cells die on their own. It's not a good idea to help them along.
That's very true.
I mean,
And then I had another client, Anthony. He was, Italian, and had been married for, I think, 65 years to the love of his life, best friend, companion. And when she died, his eyesight went off. He started having blurred vision, and had to get special glasses from his eye doctor to even be able to drive. Well, a friend of mine, actually was her father. She brought him in to for me to start doing some work with him. And the first thing that I healed for him was the inability to see that he had lost his wife. He just couldn't register it. He couldn't see that she was no longer there, and so it manifested in his eyesight. Does that make sense?
yeah.
So I took a couple of sessions for that, but I got his eyesight back to normal. He was able to throw away the glasses, and I also was able to heal the grief so that he was at peace about his beloved wife.
That's amazing. I have a I have a question that is on topic but off topic.
Yeah.
Have you ever worked with animals?
Oh, yeah. I love working with animals.
Because I know, especially animals that have been emotional support animals have a real connection to the person they're with.
Mm-hmm.
So do they ever experience grief and depression when that person passes on?
Absolutely. Yeah. Or if an animal that they were really close to dies, they go through grief just like humans do. Animals experience emotions very similar to the way humans do. I mean, the most obvious example is, look how excited a dog gets when their human comes home at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's emotion, or the embarrassment or the shame that you can see on their face if they have an accident in the house. Maybe the human didn't get back in time to take them out. Certainly wasn't deliberate, in most cases.
Well, in those cases, they are experiencing obviously grief, among other things, but you aren't able to talk it through with them. So how do you know what it is you're dealing with when you go in on a spiritual level into, is it a color? Is it a feeling? How do you identify?
No, no, no. All right. So clients do bring their pets to me, not in person. I work with the pets uh, remotely using
Yeah.
their picture, their name, some basic information, just like I work with people's children that way as well. And so, say a cat. Well, I can give you a quick example. A client couple who I was working with, their cat started bleeding from, I believe it was from the rectum. And they took her to the vet, and the vet was unable to identify what was causing the bleeding. And so they called me and said, Ellie, can you figure this out? What is going on with our cat? And in just the one session, when I tuned into her, what I heard was bleeding ulcer. And when I muscle tested the cat using her picture, uh, I got confirmation on that. And in that same one session, I did a healing on the bleeding ulcer, and it stopped the next day, and she was fine.
That's magical. Um, have it just, I think something important people understand. You have a master's degree in counseling as well as everything else. So
Yes.
you're coming in here with a good, firm background in understanding a lot of these issues. It's not that you're just on the street corner, soliciting people and talking under your right. Hey, want a
No
healing?
need for that. No need for that. Yeah, I've got plenty of work. But yes, that's part of making everything that I do more efficient, having that counseling background.
Yes.
It helps me to intuit and diagnose more quickly than if I did not have that background.
I think that's one of the many things that impressed me. I mean, you have the spiritual credentials, and those aren't easy to come by either. But having the professional background gives you a solid base to work from, to be intuitive from, and to draw from, as far as being able to say, you know, this led me to where I went to. You're utilizing both together, woven together, so that there's a different level of intensity that you bring to a session.
Hmm.
It isn't just let's meditate and see what we get.
Oh
It's
God, no. Sessions are very dynamic. Again, I pride myself on getting results for my clients every session, and it works. And so no, it's not about kind of just sitting around. It's about me being on, linking up to a much higher level of intuition, finding out exactly what needs to be cleared. And I do one significant issue every session. And that's why it's effective, because I'm not running around, it's not scattered, it's extremely focused. And then when I start clearing, it could be like one of my sessions this week was a woman who was traumatized by her father. He was like a really scary person who drank a lot. And I mean, he really terrorized her. And she was in her, she is in her 60s.
oh
And she only needed one session for that. And I cleared the trauma from her father.
wow.
Like, yeah, I mean, years of therapy won't do that.
No. Does it ever come back? I mean,
No,
lots of times. Okay. I
one
was
and
going to say,
done.
a lot of times, with healers, especially your fundamental Christian healers, where they put their hands on and people, are healed, but their life hasn't changed. So whatever the issue was comes back, but you're able to make sure it doesn't come back, which I think is fabulous.
Thank you. Because I dissolve it. So it's gone. There's no issue sitting there in the energy field, in the body, in the mind. one of the most important areas where I would dissolve the issue is in the neural pathways, and that's where things get stuck, right? That's in the brain.
Yeah.
So that's the first place I go, and then I continue and clear the issue in every energy center. So there's nothing to come back because there's nothing there anymore.
How does a session go? Somebody sits down and says, I have a problem.
And most people have issues, right? The
Yeah.
older we get, the more issues, we accumulate. And so folks will usually sign up for one session, or sometimes they'll just, really trust what I do. And after investigating the website and watching some of the video testimonials, might sign up for one of I still offer a few discount packages for people that want to get a little bit more done, like say 4 issues compared to 1 issue, or 8 issues compared to 4 issues. And so they'll sign up for the sessions, then I schedule them. I send them a few forms to fill out and send back to me. And this way I have the forms provide good information to, again, make the work that I do more efficient, right? If I have their background, we're not going to have to talk as much, because I can scan the background and see what spirit is drawing me to heal, in what order. So again, everything is about making the work I do really efficient. And I pride myself on that. But so the first session, we'll meet online or by phone. Some prefer phone. But say we meet online, we talk the first 15 minutes. And while we're talking, it's not only do I have the counseling background to refer to, but it's pretty uncanny how the client will bring up, and it'll almost bubble up from their subconscious, what the issue is that they really need me to clear that day.
Yeah.
So that's the first 15 to 20 minutes. And so pretty much like while they're talking, I'm honing in, what will be most helpful for this client today. I'm honing in. And then all of a sudden I'll hear what the issue is. I'll hear it like a sentence. And then I'll be like, oh, that's great. And then I'll muscle test it. I'll run it by the client. It always resonates. And then I ask them to write it down so that they can monitor, what they're noticing after the session and before we meet next time. And they will write down the number 0 to 10. It's usually an 8, a 9, or a 10 as far as the level of charge. And I write that down too. And then the next thing I do is I balance them energetically, and then they can start to feel the energy coming in. It feels really soothing, really good. And, and then I raise their vital life force, and that also feels good, and it strengthens their whole being. And then I start to dissolve the actual issue, right? So the first part, I dissolve it from this life, as I mentioned a little while ago. Check in with them. Usually the number has gone down about 50%. And then I go back in energetically and I clear all the past lifetimes where this was an issue. And that's why I can clear an entire issue every session.
Okay. That's fascinating. Everybody in the spiritual field that I know has a favorite story, experience, client, whichever way you want to put it. Something that happened that is what they point to and say, this was spectacular. Do you have one?
Oh. Well, I would say many. I've helped people with insomnia who were not able to sleep, with grief, with guilt from having an abortion. That's a big one. That's a really heavy one that people carry. I did that this week. I think my favorite, well, probably one of my favorite stories, and it's on my website, is about a guy named David who was convinced by a raven to climb a tree, and he was afraid of heights, and he was not a tree climber, but this raven kept persisting, and so finally one day he did it, and the raven actually pushed him off the tree, and he fell and broke his back. So it almost, I know it sounds crazy, but there's a story behind every story, I say, and what happened was the spirit of a Native American who David had killed in a past life, during one of the wars, had found him. He had recognized his soul. He found him, and had vowed revenge. And so uh, uh, that was his revenge, getting him to climb the tree, fall, and break his back so that he could feel how it felt to be helpless and severely injured. And so anyway, so that's what I call a karmic spirit. That's in the book also, the Hitching a Ride, a Guide to Earthbound Spirits. And so the healing that needed to happen, and I walked David through this. In fact, his sister-in-law, who is a psychologist, was there with him when I did the session, and she wrote a beautiful testimonial of what she witnessed. What I needed to do was walk David through the process of moving into a place of compassion and remorse and recognition and taking responsibility for his behavior in that past life, even though he didn't consciously remember it. And then the spirit was willing to forgive and move on. And I then guided him to the light because he was satisfied.
I think that was one of the things that impressed me too, that when you were going through episodes where someone had mistreated someone else, or that there was resentment there, that having the one person apologize to the spirit so the spirit would move on and release them from whatever, the anxiety, the pain, the whatever, so that it's the person has to be willing to accept blame and apologize sincerely. And when you're talking to a spirit, there's no way you can BS them. You can't pretend to be sorry.
No pretending.
No, it doesn't work. It just falls on deaf ears. It's kind of like, give me a break. You're making it worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And Barbara, don't you agree that the more we take responsibility for our actions, our attitudes, our thoughts and behaviors, the better our life goes, then the better we feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's sort of like, not only are you healing an issue, you are shifting a spirit's feet on their pathway, so that there is a more spiritual, there's a lightheartedness, there's greater light within their life. It isn't just the one situation you fix, it's any situation that might have been coming up in order to remind them of this, are no longer necessary. So nobody's path is empty. There's always going to be some challenge that we have to address, or there's no point to this lifetime.
That's
But
right. There's no growth.
yeah, but you don't have to repeat the same lesson over and over and over and over again. Usually, in my experience, it's three times and out. If I can't, I have to have it fixed by the third time, or I have to do some heavy duty work somewhere. But usually by the third time, I get the message and, am able to move on. But it's not just saying I'm sorry as much as it is changing their behavior from that point further.
And also, it's so important to move into a place of compassion, like not just saying the words I'm sorry, but to feel the compassion, to understand how much they caused this other soul's suffering in another life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, you stop and think, we are very powerful, and our brain is very powerful. And when we do things unconsciously that hurts other people, if we're called to task on it, if there's something that brings our attention to it, just apologizing doesn't fix it. Changing the way you walk your talk is what fixes it. And
Yes.
that's the biggest thing for a healing to take place. And I would say that most probably the people that come to you have that element of compassion inside of them. They just hadn't thought to use it.
Yeah, and the people that I work with, they tend to be more spiritual, and they want to grow, and they want to help and contribute. It's not all about them. It's about them growing, on every level. And a lot of them really want to help others. And those are the people that I really love to work with.
Well, it feels like when you have worked with someone, they have the same reaction to people who come out of a near-death experience, kind of feeling like, I have to love people more. I have to be kinder to other people. I have to do things for other people because I have this awareness now that I didn't have a while back. And so that in many ways you're teaching compassion and love to people who thought they knew it all.
Yes. How refreshing. One of my favorite things to do, and I need to get back there, is to go and walk among the redwood trees. I'm in California, and you know why I love it? Because it's so humbling. I feel so tiny compared to these massive, beautiful redwood trees, and it just reminds me that that I'm kind of I'm not sure how I want to put it, but it just keeps me humble, if that makes sense.
Well, we're neophytes. If you were cut in half and and counted the rings in your body, it nowhere comes close to what the rings that the redwoods show.
Yes.
And they've stood there through time, and they have a deva, they have a spirit, and it's quite profound. I've not been there, but I can imagine the power behind it. I think we found a tree here in Connecticut. Well, back in Connecticut, I'm no longer there. That was, I think, 200 years old.
Wow.
And it took like 4 people holding hands to go around the trunk. And when you thought about when that tree started out, where was this country, or was this country anywhere? It's sort of like it has stood the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're so small to, it's important that we try to stand the test of time, and we try to grow in a positive spiritual way. But so often people forget about the spiritual and the magic that's inside and the power that there exists to change and shift a person's perspective and pathway, and remind them of a new direction that they need to go in. I mean, you don't tell them where to go or how to get there, but they at least know that there's a pathway that they didn't know about before, which is profound.
Yes. And that's why it's so important to honor and protect nature. So important. Nature and animals. I mean,
Telling
we're not,
you,
we're not superior. We're all equal. Life is life is life. And the earth, Mother Earth, supports and sustains us. So it's really important that we remember that and appreciate that.
well, and the more the more we become industrialized, the more things there are to distract us, the more complicated life gets, the more we tend to forget about the natural things, the things that we're here to do. And I think that what you do with your sessions with people helps people to recognize that their pathway is important, and it isn't how many cars they have or how much money they have in the bank or how many trips they can take or how big or what color their American Express card is. It's how am I impacting myself and society? How am
Yes.
I treating the people I love?
Yes.
I know people that have a tremendous amount of money and their children have traveled all over and they have all sorts of gifts and all sorts of things. But when you come to the purpose of life, they don't have a clue. And it's very sad to think that with all of the things they have available to them, that they aren't more evolved spiritually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Compassion, gratitude, appreciation,
Yeah.
giving to each other, those are the important virtues.
Well, I know my grandchildren, my son, when Christmas time comes around, what do you want? Time. Spend time with me.
Yeah,
That's the most precious gift you can give anybody.
that's right.
So I find it interesting. You've been in business 33 years.
Yeah, I think it's more like 34 now. Yeah.
It's around the same number Jesus had, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Not comparing you, but it's the same length of time that he was here shelling out his information too.
Well, Barbara, guess what? I was
What?
Jesus's youngest brother in
Wow.
that life. So he was for real my huge role model, and I'm sure had a big influence on me, on my lifetimes being a healer.
Well, you are definitely a healer. There's no doubt about that. And it's a matter of, they say, healer, heal thyself. Did you come to the understanding that you could do this from working on yourself first?
Not first, simultaneously. I still do my own technique on myself. I did a session on myself today before our interview because I got COVID this week. So I did a clearing on COVID because I want to be done with it.
Yeah.
And so I've done a lot of my own work on myself, and it's been, really, really helpful in my own personal growth. And it also helps me stay on top of, just being responsible for my part and making sure that I'm doing what I need to do to grow as much as possible and be the of service in the highest level for my clients.
Where do you take it from here?
I don't know. I'm looking to relocate. I'd really like to live in a quieter, peaceful place with birds and trees and simpler things, and continue doing my work. Um, I've done a lot of service work when I'm sleeping, and I will astro travel to different parts of the world where there are crises that need my help. And I'd like to do less of that and, continue working with clients and just have a little bit more, just live in I just want to live in a really pretty place for a while where I'm not working all the time.
I can understand that. It's you get to a point when you've achieved as much as you have, and you're still here. So obviously, there's more to do.
Yes.
And it's sort of like, where is the next step? Where is the next level? You've got an impressive website.
Thank
You
you.
have stuff on the website, but it feels as though you're going to be branching out. And how will you
Oh,
branch? I mean, you do personal things. I think when we spoke the other day, you mentioned wanting to do some sort of group stuff online as well.
yes. Yes. I think that would be the next level, would be to be working with larger and larger groups so that more people can access the healing that I provide.
Well, that makes sense because I mean, what you have is such a great gift, and you do it, on a one-on-one. But it feels as though being able to do it in a group would benefit more and take less out of you, unless, of course, you did more sessions that way. I know
Yeah,
when
yeah.
when I did a long time ago, a remote viewing group, and I took them all over they were people all over the world, and they all called in to the studio where we were, and I did it energetically using their energy to take them on whatever trip we were going on. And
Yeah.
I find I everybody found that empowering in a lot of ways. So that the fact that the gifts that you have can be done in a group form, um, would really, be phenomenal. And if you can do it in a small group, then you can do it in a large group.
Very true. And I have worked with groups over the years. And it's funny because I can be working with one person in front of a group, and everyone in the audience will feel the energy. It's that strong.
Yeah, I've experienced faith healers and how they churn the energy in the group so that you feel the energy all around. And it's no surprise people are affected by it and touched by it, and that the healer, minister, whoever is doing the healing, can put their hands and channel that energy into a person and shift things around in them so that they go down. It's very impressive. But that was another time. I don't think that people need that kind of experience anymore. But
Mhm.
what you do, certainly, if somebody is energetically focused on what you're doing and who you're doing it with, there has to be an overflow into them as well. Just has to be.
Yes.
That is so exciting. So you want to explain to people a little bit about your website and how people can get a hold of you?
Sure. The website is phoenixrisinghealing.com, phoenixrisinghealing.com. And, the listeners can reach out to me with an email. Um, I do give my phone number, but I'm not always able to get back to everybody that calls me. So a lot of times email is probably more efficient.
Mhm.
And I do offer I still offer a free 20-minute consultation on the homepage of the website. But people complain a little bit that, they're pretty booked up, the times that I have available. So if they really want to get in for one or more sessions, some people are signing up, for the sessions and bypassing the consultation. Either way is fine. They just would need to wait a little bit longer, if they want to have a consultation. But my email is phoenixrisinghealing@gmail.com.
Well,
Yeah.
I certainly hope people will take advantage of your gifts because they are profound. And the book was a delight to read. And every now and then when you hear about a case study, you kind of want to know what happened later, what happened after, how did life change and shift and move on for you. I realize that isn't available and it's a privacy thing. I got it. But you still wonder.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate your being here with us today. And
Oh,
I hope people take advantage of your book, which is a great book to read. And it gives them an idea as to what is possible, aside from and, next to other modalities they may be deciding to utilize for their own healing.
well, thanks, Barbara. Do you want to give the title of the book if people are interested in looking that up? And they can also get that on my website
It's
on the
a
homepage.
great title. It's Hitching a Ride, a guide to earthbound spirits and how they affect you. It's a delightful book, and it was a pleasure to read it. And I'm so glad that you were here to share time with us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I've really enjoyed meeting with you.
Oh, it's been a pleasure for sure. Okay, everybody, thank you. Check in with me again Monday for another adventure into my reading and what's going on. Certainly, this has been a pleasure. Check out her website. It's really quite profound and what she offers, which is also profound.